Our two largest groups within the angiosperms are the monocots and the U Dicots. These have a lot of differences between them, and they're both pretty good groupings, so those have been pretty well established. We talk about the embryos first. The name monocot has to do with the fact that their embryos have one cotyledon. If we talk about the U Dicot side, these have two cotyledons. And that's going to be seed leaves. The leaf venation, so the leaf veins, will be a little bit different when we're talking about these two groups. With the monocots, they tend to be parallel. And when we're talking about the dicots, these tend to be net-like. So if we talk about what we mean by that, with the monocots, if we draw a typical leaf here, the veins tend to run like this. And if we're talking about the U Dicots and we draw the leaf, it's what's probably a little more familiar to you. So we see more of this type of structure. As far as the stems are concerned, the vascular tissue is arranged a little differently in the two. So when we're talking about the U Dicots, our vascular tissue is going to be arranged like this, so that once you get a mature stem, you do have the rings that perhaps you've seen before when you've seen a slice of a tree. If we're talking about the monocots, their vascular tissue is what we call scattered bundles. So it's going to be scattered all around in just little groups or bundles. And we don't tend to get very big, large, woody plants when we're talking about monocots. We do have some trees, but not a ton of them. So the trees that are monocots tend to be the palms, all of your palm trees. As far as the roots are concerned, the U Dicots tend to have a taproot. That means that you have this plant, and then underneath you have one main root, and you might have a few small roots that come off of that. If we're talking about the monocot side, they tend to be fibrous roots, which means you've got this plant and you've just got this massive fibrous root system that's just expanding and branching all over the place. You can't really distinguish one main or primary root from all of that. As far as the pollen is concerned, the monocots, it will have one opening on the pollen grain. And with the U Dicots, they have 3 openings. And so this, over on the monocot side, tends to be a more round pollen grain. On the U Dicot side, a lot of times it looks a little more lobed or lobe-like. The flower structures tend to vary in the number of units that they have. So in the monocots, you tend to have flower parts in multiples of 3. So you might have 3 petals or 6 petals or 9 petals, usually 3 or 6. And with the U Dicots, you tend to see things in 4s and 5s. So if you see a flower and it's got 5 petals on it, then you're looking at a dicot. If you see one that's got 4 petals on it, then you're looking at a dicot. So all in all, our monocots tend to be our grasses and palms. And the U Dicots are going to be the things that are a little more familiar to you probably. All of those flowering plants like marigolds, petunias, your oak trees, those types of things. If we finish up this chapter just talking about the impact that plants have had on human populations, we're going to focus on the angiosperms. And this is because not only are angiosperms the most widespread and diverse of all the plant groups, but these are also the ones that have had the most dramatic impact on humans. So if we just first focus on the fact that these are a big food source for humans, there are 6 crops specifically that just those 6 provide 80% of the human food supply. So that's a huge quantity of our food being dependent on those 6 crops. Besides that, angiosperms provide the food for livestock. So when we're cultivating livestock, this is where their food is coming from as well. We have beverages that come from angiosperms, and specifically coffee and tea are very big ones. Those are used all over the world. We have angiosperms being used as wood So we could say for fuel, paper, all of these types of things. And then we can also talk about their use as medicines. This could also be herbal remedies. So 25% of the prescription drugs that are used today, the active ingredient comes from plants. So clearly, human populations are very dependent on angiosperms and on other plants as well. But angiosperms are the primary ones that are providing our food and providing the medicines that we know of. So when we talk about diversity and declining diversity as far as plants go, if we have a declining rainforest and things of that nature, it could have a dramatic impact on a human population because there's a lot of undiscovered plant species out there. They could be great food sources. They could be the source of a lot of medicines for a lot of the diseases that we have today. So it really is a bad thing when we talk about declining rainforests and extinguishing plant species that we haven't yet discovered because we don't know what potential those might hold for us.